Coming up on the Dallas Mavericks pregame show, your Mavericks look for their 7th straight win as they visit the Toronto Raptors. We get you ready for tonight's game. Coming up next on the Dallas Mavericks pregame show. Here we go. Hey, what's up, DLS Mavs Nation? It's your man, Kevin Gray, alongside Mavericks beat writer Tim Cato, Mavericks analyst Bobby Carella. We are DLS Mavs, your favorite guys covering your favorite team every single game night at Kevin Gray Sports, at Tim_Cato, at Bobby Carella. You can always dial up the Stein line for our national NBA insider Mark Stein at the Stein line. The views from 6 straight wins, hoping to make it 7 tonight as your Dallas Mavericks are on the road taking on the Toronto Raptors. Your Mavericks continuing their hot play, winning 10 out of their last 11 games, looking to make it 11 out of their next 12. We appreciate you joining us here on DLS Mavs on DLS Sports. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe while you're here as well. Coming up a little bit later on our show, we'll have some X Factors, who's in and who's out, what you need to know going into tonight's game. I see you, Luke. I see you, Cam, already in the chat, ready for some Mavericks basketball. So, gentlemen, let's jump into it. The Mavericks, of course, continuing their road trip. 3rd in the Western Conference, have won 6 straight games, 10 of their last 11, looking for their season-high 7th straight win tonight and 7th win in the last 8 road games as well. The Mavericks are some road warriors these days, having won 6 of their last 7 road games. Dallas, of course, has the longest active winning streak in the Western Conference as the Mavericks continue to play well at a season-high 7 games above 500. They blew out the Wizards, of course, on Thursday night by 36 points, playing in Toronto tonight before they have a date with the Oklahoma City Thunder on Tuesday in the knockout stage of the NBA Cup. So, Tim Cato, the Mavericks looking to continue has been terrific play for them since mid-November.
What even is a Raptor?
It's a dinosaur.
No. The scientists are still trying to figure it out. I don't think anybody knows. The Raptors, Toronto. I know what Toronto is. I don't know what a Raptor is. They're not quite as bad as you might think. By the numbers, I mean, this is not a good team. This is not a horrific team. This is a competent team, a competent NBA team with talent. They have a 7-16 record, but if you look at the stats, their point differential, all of that stuff, the analytics thinks that they easily should have another win, maybe 2. You round up 2 more wins that make them 9-14. 9-14 is that's kind of like an Atlanta Hawks style team. And it took a lot of work for Dallas to beat the Atlanta Hawks just about a week and a half ago. That said, Dallas is healthier. Dallas has more players available. Luka is available. And I should note that while Toronto, minus 1.6 wins based off where the analytics have them, that's 24th in the league. Who's 27th? Dallas Mavericks. They should have a couple more wins than they do just based off how everything in the season has gone. No excuses.
Yeah, I mean, this is a game that you should win. But that's kind of been like their whole deal, and which is like it's a good thing that we talked about on the pod yesterday, and the pod the night before that post game after the Wizards is like the Mavs right now are they're just trying to win the one game. We can get sort of into this sort of abstract concept of like, let's find our identity and what are they and who is this team? But in the meantime, it's like, no, let's just the next 48 minutes, let's try and end with more points than the opponent. They're not really trying to impose like one consistent style or identity or brand of basketball at both ends of the floor every single night. We're seeing a lot of flexibility, still quite a bit of tinkering, quite a bit of adjusting based on how the game is going. And, that approach has resulted in a lot of wins. And it kind of suggests that they are taking every game really seriously and that they do want to win the one game no matter how. And so, I expect them to try and solve the problem.
That makes them 10-1 in their last 11 games, arguably the hottest team in the association. Jason Kidd speaking pregame on what has changed from what was the first 12 games and a 5-7 start to what they've done over the last 11 games, playing as well as they have been. Here's what Jason Kidd had to say.
I think just getting comfortable with one another, getting back into the swing of the system, both offensively and defensively. We've had some illness, some injuries, different lineups. So just everyone, getting on the same page. And as much as we would like to have it in training camp, sometimes it just takes some time.
And everyone is on the same page as the Mavericks continue strong play, looking to get yet another road win tonight against Toronto. A Mavericks team, of course, at 15-8, 7-5 away from the American Airlines Center. Raptors 7-16 on the year, but 6-5 at home, which means simple math tells you that they won one road game so far this year. Mavericks are 8.5-point favorite on the road. The over/under at 235.5, which gets us to tonight's scouting report from our guy Bobby Carella when it comes to what Toronto does at home versus what they do away from Scotiabank Arena.
Some of these differences and splits are shocking. So start at the very top. RJ Barrett at home this year, 28.8 points per game. On the road, 19.4 points per game. That is a 9.4 point difference. How about Jamison Battle shooting 15 percentage points better at home? RJ Barrett shooting almost 13 percentage points better at home. Emmanuel Quickley, almost 8. Scotty Barnes, more than 7 percentage points better at home. How about from beyond the arc? Jamison Battle, 19 percentage points better. Emmanuel Quickley, 50% three-point shooter at home, 33.3% three-point shooter on the road. RJ Barrett, 39-30. Even Scotty Barnes, 32-26. Free throw percentage, Grady Dick, 96.4% free throw shooter at home, 85.7% shooter on the road. Jakob Poeltl averages almost an extra block a game at home, too. So
hang on. So, why didn't the Mavericks just choose to play them at home?
They should have done that. They're just, what is
What's
Jason
going on
Kidd
here?
doing? Another example of not taking this seriously.
This seems like an obvious misstep from the Mavericks. What are they doing?
Now, there are exceptions to be made with all this stuff. Again, the Eastern Conference is more like the Leastern Conference. Am I right?
I don't know.
And they've had wins this season at home against teams like the Sixers and the Pacers, who have been really struggling twice. So it's not like they don't have a signature win at home, but they have a winning record at home, and they have a disgustingly losing record on the road. And so, if you're the Mavs, it's like, okay, you got to locate these guys that might get going, and role players and young guys generally are going to play better at home. So just try and throw water on all these guys that get hot and see if it sticks.
With Toronto, they're 12th in the East right now, but they are 3-2 in their last 5 games. They lost on Thursday night to the Thunder in what was a 129-92 blowout, snapping their 2-game winning streak. Toronto right now currently in the middle of a 5-game homestand where they are 2-1 so far. They've got Dallas tonight, then they welcome in the Knicks on Monday night to finish up that 5-game homestand. Offensively, we've talked about it a little bit. RJ Barrett and Scotty Barnes going to leading them offensively when it comes to Toronto. Over their last 10 games, RJ Barrett averaging over 26 points per game, shooting nearly 51% from the field and over 37% from three. And by the way, grabbing 7 rebounds and over 6 assists per contest as well. Scotty Barnes been playing really well as of late over the last 10 as well, averaging 22 points per game, 9 rebounds and 8 assists while shooting 46% from the field. Raptors will have Jakob Poeltl available tonight. He was questionable coming into tonight's game with illness, but he'll be available to go tonight. He's going to lead them defensively, 11.8 rebounds per contest, which is 5th in the NBA so far this year while scoring over 16 points per game. So they'll be able to have him available. And, of course, Ashi Abaji, who's been really good from the three-point line for Toronto so far this year, 5th in the association, shooting over 48% from downtown. So you got to be able to get out to him as a shooter. But more importantly, it starts and ends, gentlemen, when it comes to RJ Barrett and Scotty Barnes offensively for Toronto.
Yeah, they have players. This is a different situation than Washington on Thursday. There are players here that you should fear. That you really have to devote your game plan to. Not to say, of course, Dallas went into the game against Washington with a game plan. This one is just it's a little bit more complex, or it's you gotta pay attention to those guys just a little bit more than really anybody that Washington was going to throw out there. That said, this is a team that's lost plenty of games for a reason. So I just don't see. I mean, I know Dallas is going to be down some role players again. We'll get to the injury report. I'm doing better.
I appreciate you respecting the injury report.
I'm doing
Sam.
better.
Thank you, Sam. Appreciate that.
I'm not rushing ahead this time.
Appreciate you.
And just starting to like name names who are out. I know that's very easy to do. But yeah, I mean the guys at the top, the players, RJ Barrett and Scotty Barnes and even I like what Grady Dick has been doing this season. Good players. Just the sum of the whole is not. Doesn't equal a team that Dallas should fear or go into thinking anything other than they should win this game.
Going back to last season, whenever they played in Toronto, this was after the trade deadline. Toronto basically had its full complement of players. Quickly went for 28, Barrett for 26. Scotty Barnes had a double-double, 19 points. Pirtle had 16 points, 4 steals, 2 blocks. Pirtle was -1. Mavs won by 11, so whenever he was off the floor, it was Kelly Olynyk playing backup big, or the Raptors went small for a little bit. Daniel Gafford off the bench in that game just ran a bunch of go routes, and Luka found him with like 80-foot lobs like 3 or 4 different times. It was honestly, it was really weird like how frequently they were able to make that play. And so, tonight with Gafford coming off the bench, presumably again, when Pirtle is out of the game, big man, it's time to eat. When Pirtle's in the game, that's whenever you got to kind of try and manipulate the defense and find some shooters because Pirtle is kind of a one-man wrecking crew around the rim whenever he's, going at his best and feeling good. Or you can try and attack him and get him in foul trouble. But he is really like the linchpin for the defense and he's had some huge offensive rebounding games against the Mavs over the years too. So he's like the guy that I'm kind of most afraid of.
Jonathan Mogbo is a guy to watch for Dallas, to off the Raptors bench, but someone to watch if you're Dallas, just a 6'9" power forward, just does a lot of stuff kind of in the in-between phases. And Dallas, when they really key on stars, can let those role players kind of work and operate sometimes in those in-between spaces. Just something to keep an eye on, big, good, athletic, big, someone they can handle. But just a note, just a player that could be a thorn in the side, at least for stretches of this game.
Mogbo had a career-high 17 points off the bench in the game against the Oklahoma City Thunder the other night in the loss for Toronto. Mavericks, of course, are one of the hottest teams in the league. When you start looking at them statistically over the last 11 games, number 2 in points per game, number 2 in field goal percentage, number 3 in three-point percentage, number 3 in rebounds, also number 3 in offensive rating. Oh, by the way, they're a top 10 defensive rated team at number 7 at 107.9. And by the way, they are number 1 in overall net rating at a plus 12.2, and they're doing it with pace, playing at a number 6 pace during this 11-game run that they are on. Offensively, of course, your Mavericks going to be led by Luka Doncic, and we focus in on him real quick because since returning from that wrist injury in the last 3 games, my man is averaging over 31 points per game, shooting over 52% from the field, over 41% from the three-point line. And, oh, by the way, giving you nearly 10 rebounds and over 9 assists per contest as well. That 78th career triple-double that he had the other night against Washington tied him for 7th in league history with James Harden and Wilt Chamberlain. So some history, of course, made for Luka Doncic in what was a blowout victory for your Mavericks against the Washington Wizards. Mavericks playing their first of 2 games this year against Toronto, as they will take on Toronto again on April the 11th in 2025, coming around the corner here as far as 2025 is concerned. But the Mavericks and Raptors split the season series last year, 1 game apiece with Toronto, earning the 127-116 win in Dallas. But Dallas returned the favor. Bobby started to mention it a little bit. What was a 136-125 win in late February on what was Luka's birthday that particular day, as Luka went for a triple-double with 30 points, 12 rebounds, and 16 assists in the win. Kyrie Irving went smooth off in that fourth quarter, scoring 15 of his 29 points in that fourth quarter to deliver the Mavericks the road win over the Toronto Raptors.
Yeah, I mean, it's if they did it then, they can do it now.
I like that.
Yeah,
I like that.
Actually, I think this might be a big Luka game. Feels appropriate.
Okay, so small note, it is Slovenian Heritage Night in Toronto, so I especially going to be on Luka watch a little bit more than usual because he might be trying to put on the show in front of some of his fellow countrymen tonight in Toronto. So we'll see when it comes to Luka Doncic. But the Mavericks looking to continue their strong play. They'll have a couple of days off before they take on the Oklahoma City Thunder. Hopefully, we'll get to this a little bit later on as far as our X factors. This is a classic trap game. You got to be able to make sure that you're coming out with a fast start against a Toronto team that has played decently at home. If you're the Mavericks, you don't want to look forward to the game against Oklahoma City on Tuesday. You got to come out with the focus tonight to be able to get another quality win on the road. Coming up here in just a little bit, we'll have who's in, who's out, our X factors as well, as we get you ready for the Mavericks taking on the Toronto Raptors in Toronto. But before we get there, let's talk to you a little bit about Sleeper.
Trying to get back on track here on Sleeper tonight. So here is my pick of the game. Tanner, here we go. Luka Doncic, more than 7.5 assists. I think that Pirtle's going to play some drop, and Luka's really good at finding those late passes, so I think he's going to have a big passing game. Kyrie Irving, I'm taking him for more than 33.5 points plus rebounds plus assists. Think he's going to have a lot of threes, a lot of good looks. And who the heck is going to guard him on their team? RJ Barrett, the dude is unbelievable at home, so I'm taking him for more than 22.5 points. And then finally, PJ Washington, I think his initially listed at like 12.5, but I'm going to change that to just at least 10 points. And when I win that, my $5 pick will net me $32.90. So shout out to Sleeper. Thank you for boosting my funds with this easy dub. Just kidding. It's going to be very difficult. I'm 2-3 on the season, but I'm still in the positive thanks to that multiplier. If you create a Sleeper account and use promo code DLSMavs, they will match your initial deposit up to $1,500, and you, like me, can start stacking dubs.
Make sure you check out Sleeper today. Let's get you ready for the Mavericks taking on the Toronto Raptors. We'll get to the injury report here as the Mavericks and Raptors tip off at 6:30 p.m. The Raptors will be without Bruce Brown. He's still returning to competition. He's getting himself ready with his conditioning there. Davion Mitchell, he is available and good to go. He's dealing with a right hip injury. Kelly Olynyk is also available and ready to play. He's been dealing with a back strain. And we mentioned a little bit earlier, Jakob Poeltl is going to play. Poeltl, of course, 5th in the NBA in rebounding so far this year. He's available. He's been dealing with some illness. For the Mavericks, Dante Exum, of course, remains out with his right wrist surgery, and Najee Marshall is going to miss again tonight's game as he continues to deal with the illness that has been going around. And apparently got Maxi Kleber because he's out for tonight's game with illness. Jaden Hardy's going to miss tonight's game after spraining his right ankle on Thursday against the Washington Wizards. So mostly healthy for the Mavericks tonight, but out to one of their more versatile defenders in Maxi Kleber tonight, who's dealing with illness.
Wait, did you say Gortman is out?
I did not say Gortman was out.
Did he get called up?
He was not on the injury report, so I imagine he's on the active roster for tonight's game.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah, I mean, no Hardy, no Exum. You don't have a lot of guards. Something happens. I mean, the Raptors starting lineup is pretty big. So it's Barrett, Abaji. I don't know how they are going to configure it, like with Grady Dick and Scotty Barnes and Poeltl. I'm assuming that Barnes is on Luka. Assuming probably Abaji on Kyrie. I mean, that's tough, dude. They don't really have a good option for guarding Kyrie. They don't really have a good option at all for guarding Klay. Like,
I like Barnes on Kyrie.
And then who's guarding Luka?
I mean, that's where I'd probably go Abaji or Barrett with a lot of shading.
Dude, then yeah, Luka's gonna go for 60. Like none of these guys have the size outside of Scotty. Scotty's a good defender, but I mean, if any of those guys on Kyrie, that's tough. And then which you gonna let? I'll let PJ Washington post up Grady Dick all night long,
all day,
all night long.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's pretty interesting. And then off the bench, they don't have too much size. So tonight could be a night where if the Mavs are able to solve the Poeltl problem, then they could do the big man be tall thing.
So Barrett has been very good at living at the rim. He is let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He is 6th in the league in shot attempts in the restricted area. Do you want to guess the top 5 by chance?
Giannis.
Yes, 1.
Wemby.
Wemby's not there. No, that's the whole thing about this season.
Wow.
Yeah,
so shooting the bus from the perimeter now.
Yeah,
huh?
yeah. Everybody's upset that Wemby doesn't take more.
It's not Jalen Brunson. Is it Jalen
No,
Brunson?
it's all big men. Just think big men.
Jokic.
Jokic is not in there. He's
think big men.
Gafford.
Well, all 4 other answers are big men. No, it's neither of the Mavericks centers.
All right, I don't like this.
Okay,
I don't
fine.
think so.
Okay,
Yeah.
fine.
Listen,
Anthony Davis, Evan Mobley, Alperen Şengün, and Franz Wagner. are.
okay.
But after those 4,
Damn.
it's RJ Barrett, and that does stand out. And I did want to name those 5 players because all 5 of those players are bigs.
Yeah, it's tough.
RJ Barrett is not. He is
Najee
a big wing.
They're going to miss Najee tonight on defense because Najee's body type is really good. Because Barrett is like 6'4", 6'5", but he's like thick and quick and change of pace and speed. Like
also
that's
next
a
on the
tough
list. Next on the list, Jakob Poeltl.
Jakob.
I did say that.
Good old Jake.
I knew that. I promise.
Good old Jake Pirtle.
Yeah, well, he grew up down the street from me, right?
Yeah,
he's apparently.
He's a
still
Colleyville
kid,
kid, isn't he?
old Jakey.
Right.
Well, I'm just saying, if he grew up in Colleyville, he would be a Jacob. It definitely is Jakob.
Wow, okay.
He is such a
And
Jacob.
I did know it was Jakob. It's been a while since
He
I've
just
said his
looks
name out
like
loud.
such a Jacob.
But RJ Barrett is not as, he gets there a lot. He is consistently getting to the rim. He is not an elite finisher at the rim. This is something that if you've got PJ Washington rotating back there, if you've got your bigs, Lively and Gafford back there, you can affect him. This is not a he has been LeBron James-esque. Well, he hasn't even been that, but he has been dominant, wing in terms of quantity, not in terms of quality, in terms of finishing those shots. So yeah, it's a big game. It's an important game to make sure that you can keep your bigs near the rim as much as possible. I think that is doable in a game like this. But yeah, it's just something to note that Barrett is 6th overall, that Poeltl, that my boy Jake is 7th. So there's going to be chances, there's going to be opportunities, there's going to be need for the rim protectors to do what they do. That's part of their name.
If I had to guess, first, maybe Barrett attacks like super early or something, but if I had to guess, first couple times he comes off screen, big man's going to drop. Sorry, we got Arizona State doing their post game, and they're off the Herman Marshall right now. It is something else, but oh my God, it's really hard to catch it.
We are the champions.
If I had to guess, the first couple times he comes off screen, big man's going to drop, Klay or Luka's going to go under, and they're going to see what he's got. If he can hit some pull-ups, then they'll step out on him. But I think they're gonna challenge him to beat him with the jumper first, and then they'll react to that afterward.
It's interesting, real quick, NBA. You mentioned Franz Wagner being one of the guys that likes to get and live at the rim. He's going to be out indefinitely. He's dealing with a torn oblique muscle, much like his teammate, Paulo Banchero for the Orlando Magic. So they are down pretty bad right now in Orlando when it comes to their injury front. You guys mentioned Kyrie Irving and how Kyrie Irving could potentially cook tonight against the Toronto Raptors. That's where we go for our Mavericks player spotlight. Kyrie Irving, gentlemen, playing in his 100th game tonight as a Dallas Maverick, and so far this year has been absolutely spectacular, averaging over 24 points per game, shooting 50% from the field, and oh, by the way, 46% from three, while shooting 87% from the line, so flirting with that 50-40-90 type caliber season.
50-50-90.
Yeah, exactly. He's been that good for the Mavericks. Of course, Irving led the Mavericks with 25 points in the win against Washington. We focus in on him because not only is it its 100th game as a Maverick, but just think about the transformation that this organization has undergone with him being alongside Luka Doncic and how much more comfortable he has become part of this team and really has become the cultural leader on this team as well, locker room and off on the floor as well. Kyrie Irving's tenure here in Dallas could not have gone any better, despite what some expectations may have been with him coming here, given his style of play and trying to marry that with Luka Doncic. It's been his really a perfect fit for Kyrie here in Dallas.
Yeah, I mean, look, there are reasons why those expectations were in place. Obviously, to some extent, they were misguided in terms of thinking that Kyrie Irving was going to be this type of player in every single environment that he could possibly, fit into. Clearly, Nico Harrison and the Mavericks recognize that their environment, what they have built in Dallas, was something different, and that Kyrie was becoming someone who craved a situation like this. But again, it's almost like, I don't really think Mavs fans are doing this, but there's no reason to sugarcoat this because, this is what allowed them to get Kyrie Irving. This is what helped build the team in a weird way. But yeah, ever since getting here, he's been fantastic. He has been, it is undeniable. He is the team's leader. He is the tone setter. He is the veteran that is respected in that locker room. That is beloved. Not just the locker room. It's everybody who comes in contact with them. Yeah, it's just it's very impressive. I was debating whether I can tell the story. I saw him signing autographs for some fans. After a game, when he was leaving the arena, and he is the only player I've ever seen in those situations where there are fans who have, kind of set up where he's leaving the arena, it's not hard to find, but I'm not going to say where that is.
Sure.
But he's the only person I've ever seen get out of his car to interact with the fans in that setting. It's just, like it's not, sure, it's very common for someone to roll the window down and interact with several people and, as many as he can, maybe spend 10 minutes. I've never seen someone just park their car and like hop out and, just like basically hang out with the fans, even if it's only 5 minutes. Obviously he's headed home, going home, but and I've seen him do this multiple times. So everything about his time in Dallas has just been it's been more than I think Dallas even could have hoped for.
Fans have come to love Kyrie Irving. Bobby, I want to get your thought on this real quick too, because the Mavericks felt like they had a culture and an organization that could absorb a personality like Kyrie Irving, and to see him be able to fit in. What was your initial thought when they traded for Kyrie Irving, and what that could not only be for a fit on the court, but off the court as well, knowing how some of the ways that they were able to acquire him and getting him and trying to help him fit in with this team?
Honestly, I don't really have anything interesting to say about the off the court stuff. As far as on the court, I thought it's going to be super seamless.
Yeah.
Kyrie has played virtually his entire career with guys that are kind of like Luka. LeBron, and then spent some time with Harden, spent some time with KD, always looked great, always played great, always super efficient. At the time they traded for him, they were 8-10 months removed from going to the conference finals with Jalen, and Kyrie at the time they got him was a better player than Jalen. So I don't know if he still is, but I mean, he's definitely an incredible player still. So I was never worried about the on-court stuff. Off-court, I mean, whatever. I don't really want to talk about that, but yeah, I mean, whenever they traded for him, it was at this kind of like interesting tipping point because they had lost Jalen for nothing, and they were just in this weird spot where like I kind of, because I was working for the team at the time, and I kind of wanted them to just pivot and just kind of get young, maybe trade some of their vets for youngish guys. Like at the time, I mean, the other night watching the Wizards with Jordan Poole,
Sure,
it's like he's gettable. Maybe the Warriors just want some cap relief. You can trade some of your vets for them. Like let's reshuffle the deck a little bit, get a little younger, and then try again. Maybe get a pick or something and figure something out. But then once they traded Kyrie, I was like, all right, the brakes are cut. Like you're
doubling down here.
Yeah, like you're going, so just go all in and just try and get as many quality vets as you possibly can. And basically everything they've done since then has been that. They've like, let's go all in. Let's try and get as many good players as we can right now. So I would say like getting Kyrie was a nice move. But everything they've done since then has only like entrenched that as an even better move. I saw real quick. I saw Mark in chat ask, has Kyrie been the best sports gamble the Mavs have ever made? I would say drafting Dirk was a pretty big gamble at the time, but trading for Kyrie was obviously, I mean, it's turned out to be an incredible stroke of genius and luck too. Because again, if Kyrie was available for trade now, the Mavs would get way more than they gave up for him.
They would, yes. They would get a ton for Kyrie Irving, who's been fantastic for the team, of course, helping the Mavericks get to the NBA Finals a season ago. Let's get to a couple X factors real quick before we get out of here for tonight's game. We mentioned a little bit earlier, tonight's a classic trap game. You've got a really good winning streak going. You've won 6 straight. You're looking for your 7th straight game. You've been really good on the road, but you're also looking forward to that date potentially against the Oklahoma City Thunder. You got to focus in on tonight's game against a team of Toronto that's played well at home, but at the same time, a very beatable team given the talent that you have versus what Toronto has. The Mavericks got to be able to focus up tonight and be able to get off to a good start, which they have done much better as of late, especially over the last 10, 11 games in beating teams and outscoring them in the first quarter. Also, real quick as well, the Mavericks, interestingly enough, as well as they have been playing over this last 10, 11 game stretch, they've been turning the ball over quite a bit. They're averaging 15.5 turnovers per game, which is tied for 9th worst in the league during that span. And if you're the Toronto Raptors, you saw an Oklahoma City Thunder team get 20 turnovers on you, or the Raptors, I should say, committed 20 turnovers, and Oklahoma City had 15 steals. So if you're the Mavericks, can turn over Toronto, but also at the same time, you got to be able to protect the ball and make sure you're not turning the ball over tonight against this team.
Yeah, don't do it. Don't turn the ball over. That's bad. Don't do the bad things when you're on the basketball court. You are paid a lot of money to do good things.
That's true. That's true.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't really. You're right. It's a good thing to point out. Turnovers is a hard one to be like, well, they just need to do this, this, and this. No, they just need to not turn. Like, that's the only analysis that you can really bring for this. Don't turn the ball over. If it was because of some specific situation, if they were just funneling the ball through very turnover prone players, you could be like, okay, well, change the offense. Or if it was stemming, no, I mean the ball is in. The turnovers are not stemming because from other players handling the ball for the most part. Like they're being empowered to do that. I did talk a little bit about how that is going to be a little bit of an effect on it. Mm-hmm. That's okay. But yeah, what they're doing is too much right now. So yeah, just chill out. Don't do it.
Clean up the turnover, make shots, and you give yourself a really good chance to win tonight's game against Toronto. We'll be back here 15 minutes after the game between the Raptors and the Mavericks with our post-game show. We'll be joined live by our guy Mark Stein, who's in Toronto for tonight's game. So we'll get some views from Mark Stein in Toronto post-game as well. So make sure you come back with us here on DLLS Sports.
Real quick, KG, can I say before you sign off? I just put the link to the Sun Devils post-game in chat. Those guys are absolutely blitzed and having a great time. So if you want to just go say, hey, shout out. They're in the studio with us this weekend. They were at the Big 12 Championship over at Jerry World earlier today. If you want to go to the link and just drop a hello and say welcome to Dallas, I'm sure they'd appreciate it.
Welcome to the studio.
It's game time for your Mavericks taking on the Toronto Raptors again. We'll be back 15 minutes post-game after the game is over with. For Bobby Carrella, Tim Cato, and Kevin Gray, we're DLLS Mavs. We'll talk to you after the Mavericks take on the Toronto Raptors. Y'all be good. Peace.
We all silly like the mayor.